It's another episode of Hot Take Point Made, League of Legends edition. Hence why it's not a Molotov inside the logo. It's an Ignite, which I have to say in itself, by the way, something of an antiquated feature at this point in time. Shows me how old I am, not just in esports, but in League of Legends. Because back in the day, I was that naive person, not naive, just selfish, who was arguing you shouldn't take teleport. It's just bullshit. It's just a spell for moving around the map. You should take Ignite. That's what men take. You know, that's a fucking on guard, sir. We'll decide the fate between ourselves. Like, that's at the end of the Northman or something. Oh, igniting motherfuckers running at them. Now the game's all fucking ganks and fucking wave management and teleports. You know, whatever. I'm staying true to that. We're keeping the Ignite. And also on this show, we ignite like a true fucking stud. We don't do it like when it gets the kill, like where noobs do. We do it like that time when I think it was Killer Sang just walked up in lane once and just ignited like Reckless or something under the tower, then walked away. And I was like, so that was just to fuck with him. Like, that wasn't even to do anything. Like, that's how we use the Ignite. We use the take that way, just to send a message to the scene about what we mean. So here's my question, boys. Who wants to open the proceedings? Who has a hot take we can start with? No volunteers?
I have a mild one.
Okay,
I have a mild one.
Come on, the Zaboutine. Let's do it.
Zaboutine, okay.
I think Sheo is the best jungler in Europe at the moment.
I should have been drinking more when you did that. I could have done the spit take. Okay, hit me with it. What I love is, generally, I have to say, Zaboutine does do a good job. It probably, sadly, cost him with the KC fans. He does do a pretty good job in general of not having some crazy French bias. But this is an interesting one, because you didn't say he's really good. Best! Sheo, the best jungler in Europe. Yeah. Come on then, hit me with it. Hit me with why.
During this split, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've watched all the games of LEC. I'm probably more expert in that field at like the Asian regions.
Okay.
I mean, you just have to look at the talent across the board of Team Heretics, right? They have Si-Hassen, minus 20 CS every matchup, right? Both ways. Camilo, like, if he's not 15 CS down, he's usually dead. And FLyQuest 10 is probably one of the bottom 3 bot lanes in the league, thanks to SK and some other like shenanigans. Now you look at the early games of Sheo and how much he pushes this team, and you add the information of how Sheo was playing with Team BDS last year and how of a contender they were in the early game, while having some setbacks as well in early laning for some players, especially Adam last year wasn't having like the greatest time in lane. I don't know if you remember the second part of the year. So I know it's very hard to gauge a player that's playing on a losing team, but I think that he finds as much, if not more, edges in early game as Razork does, while remaining much more consistent during the game, where I think that Razork kind of falls and starts, I would say, making pretty like trivial mistakes. I think that Sheo keeps pretty consistent, and if you look at all the games from Team Heretics, which are not very fun to watch because the players' caliber, like they lose team fights, most of their edges, leads, and games have all been won when Sheo had a good game, and only if Sheo had a good game. He is supported by Stan, who I think is doing a decent job as a support, but I wouldn't consider him like top tier. But I do think that among all junglers, and maybe the discussion is with Elioya, who has had a very good split as well, I think that Sheo has been the best performing jungler. And I did a fake, team, all pro team for my split, for my audience, and I made Sheo the jungler of the split.
He just means, by the way, he just means unofficial when he said fake there.
Yeah, unofficial mine.
Yeah,
right, yeah,
obviously for him it's the real one, just in case people think he means he was trolling. I know what you mean by that. Okay, what do you think, Keire? It's certainly a take. It's certainly a take.
Here's the problem. When I think, okay, so in terms of like good things, in terms of what he does for his like team, I'm actually pretty high on Sheo as well. Even though like he's a player that has frustrated me for no end, part of being like that a further failing BDS roster. Where I feel like sometimes he would be getting like credit for things that I just like wasn't seeing, and then he wouldn't be getting like credit for like the stuff that he, not so much like innovating, but he was like boldly like trying to like do. But he would try and do like his rumble packs, his like tally packs and stuff like that, and actually take some like agency within the game. My biggest problem with him this is like when I see Sheo, like for example the Neferi game that he played, I think was the Neferi game the tiebreaker that he played against Team Vitality, where it technically doesn't constitute the regular season,
right,
but it does illustrate my point. Like, he has like very, very large leads. I might be wrong in this game. I'm pulling just from straight from the top of my head here. And it's like, just watching him like executing like team fights, it's so bad. When it comes to just like playing for lanes and making early game like pathing decisions, I think Sheo is actually like very good. But in terms of like leveraging leads in team fights, carrying, like basically just doing like high level like LCK, LPL like carry jungling that we consider common, I think he falls well behind the peaks of like Yike, the peaks of Skewmond. I think Skewmond was the best front runner in the LEC, one of the best front runners. Like Skewmond with a lead was impossible this split. Like the Xin Zhao game that he just won for G2 on his own, like that game on of its own is just so much better than it's. Yes, it's a little less regular than some of the technical play of like Sheo. But that level, I've never seen Sheo ever play that game in the 3 splits or like the 2.5 years I've seen him play. You know what I mean? Like that game's just absolutely incredible. So that's where I become very like tentative. He would have maybe been like my 4th or 5th. I actually think jungle was mega stacked this split, to be honest.
No, I'm with you. I thought we froze for a second because you just went like, I thought like they died, which does happen on these shows if you don't know. What's funny is I'll pick up on when you said at the end there. What's funny is, even though I joked because of the name value that like it's a crazy take, it's actually not that crazy a take because obviously if people don't know, I now watch LEC almost all of it now because I do a weekly show, so I have to watch like even the games of the fucking heretics who, and the difference is in winter that was a struggle. In spring I have to actually say it wasn't bad. Like I actually somewhat enjoyed some of the games, like as you're saying, like if you go through their roster, look, they don't have any like superstar names, but like the joke is like I have a lot more respect for FLyQuest after watching him play in some of these teams. I actually think Stend is kind of like he's sort of like one of the sleeper pickups of the split. Like this is someone where he wasn't on a lot of people's radars, but you can see why he was picked up. Like he's actually done well, and actually Sheo, funnily enough, is probably the biggest name in this team now because of his time on BDS. And I actually do think if you look initially, like you did at the end there, if you take the opposite side of Zaboutine's thing, which is actually most people probably thought she was a meme or he was like one of the worst players on BDS or something. If you go from that angle, he has mega exceeded expectations in my opinion. Like I have to admit, when I watched him in BDS, I did watch their team and just go, is this guy just like the butler of Nuke? Is his job just because they're both French and just have to both spend all the time on the map? And so unfortunately, I have to say, this actually does make me realise I undervalued Sheo because what I didn't know is it actually might be the other way around. It actually might be Nuke holding him back. It might have been the BDS structure and how they want to play holding him back because when I see him on this team, mate, he looks unleashed. He looks way better individually. Even his raw hands look better. Like a gasp I didn't even know you had as a jungler. Because I think if you look at this team, first things first, if we're going to compare the other junglers, I'll do it really quickly. So the reason why this take sounds crazy is because you have 4 junglers for the top 4 teams who automatically people want to put ahead. So think about it, like Skewmond. I actually think Skewmond slept on, but now that I know he didn't even get any all-props, I thought he was like sleeper the best. I thought at times he looked sick. But I get, so, and obviously, by the way, you play with Caps and Broken Blade. Like, you can't ask for better players in the LEC. Then you go to Razork. Now, I will always point this out to people. Razork himself is somewhat living this split off a bit of his reputation from last year. Because everyone remembers when he had to do like 95% of the work to get them a game. Now he still does a couple of really good players, but now when he does the throw, it looks worse because he's got so many other good players around him. I would say if you're Razork, mate, I think you have the best roster on paper in the LEC. Like, what props am I giving you for that? I want to see you do it in the jungle. If I go to Elyoya's name may be not as big now. If you don't get it, guys, in his team, as far as I can tell, it is Elyoya's team. Like, as far as I can tell, they hired the coach he wanted, the players he wanted, and even the mid laner's job is like, do what Elyoya says. Like, the entire game runs through him, by the way. Like, it's great if you enjoy that style, but it does mean that, like, he has all the resources as a fucking jungler. I've never seen a jungler actually be the star player in the way that he is. Like, maybe he can compare Inspired in NA or something. That's about the closest I can go to. So I look at that and I'm like, mate, he has a lot more like pieces to use. And then the last name is obviously Yike from KC. Mate, of all the 4 big names, I think he might be coasting by the most. That he has a fucking, like, in his team, I don't even know that he's doing any of it. Like, as far as I can tell, it's their team fights that are godlike. I don't know that he's even had that great a split. It's just because he's on the team that finished first in people's brain, you must be top 3. If I look at all those pieces and then I compare the Heretics roster, mate, it's not even comparable. As we're saying, we didn't even say this name yet. Forget Carlson. This guy has Camilla as his fucking mid laner. A literal LFL Division 2 player is this guy's mid laner in his like fucking brand new squad, and he's killed it. I'm with you. I actually think he's not only performed better than I expected. I didn't even know this was possible, mate. He's so far above the rim of what I thought was possible for his game. So put it this way, this is why it's a good hot take. I don't overall agree. I would probably still, maybe with Skewmond, I think that would probably be the one I would go for, even if that's a contrarian take. I think the playoffs have shown that was a pretty good take all along. I would just say this, though. I would not hate at all this guy being one of my all-pros, though. If this guy wants to be second or third, I think it's totally fine. Even if, by the way, that means I am doing something to a fan that's crazy, like taking Yike's name out or taking El Yoya's name out, or God forbid, and yeah, this might, maybe even taking Razok's name out. I do think he did earn it more than most of those players. So I'll give you it. I actually think it's a good take. And also, I'll just throw this out there as well. Those, in my opinion, those two details I mentioned earlier have to connect. So the Stend guy was super slept on until he played with Sheo. I'm sorry, I'm giving some of those props to Sheo because I do think in the modern day, the most underrated interaction is fucking jungle support. I think if you go and look at any supposedly great team, look at some of the past squads of Fnatic, etc. If you ever want to look for a flaw, look at the jungle support. If that's at all dodgy, there's one of your answers why they don't win the series, they don't win the championships. Meanwhile, you go look at the teams where they cracked out jungle support, they're the best in the fucking league, mate. They run their region. So I think it's a good hot take. It's a good hot take. Okay. Right, you got listen, Keire. Step up, mate.
Right.
What have you got?
So,
which Scottish player's the best?
No, mate. But honestly, there is only one Scottish famous player, and he didn't enjoy his meeting me. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So,
look at all being rude to Snoopeh. Oh,
no, I wasn't rude. I wasn't rude. I wasn't rude. It was like, people on the train were like rude to him. That's all I'm going to say.
Fucking hell. You can't get a break, can you? He wasn't like fucking world semis. Can't you get a break on a train in Scotland?
No, but basically, the shorthand of it is football fans were actually roasting him for losing that OGM final.
Oh, really?
They overheard, because they overheard me talking to him about it, and then they'd started roasting him.
So basically, a bunch of Scottish football fans were roasting Snoopeh along the lines of like, "You balled it, Arter. What are you doing? What the fuck?" That's such a weird way to get abused years later.
It's a really strange one, mate. It was one of the strangest life interactions I've ever had in my entire life. But anyway, I digress. It was a long time. I didn't even know he was still staying in Scotland by the time.
Oh, right.
Seen family.
I believe he moved back over there,
Yeah, when I seen him, I had to like double take. But anyway, my one is, so for old heads, and we're all quite relatively old watching players, we've seen some of the terrible formats that have been like created. And formats is a thing that me and Thorin often appreciated, right? Now, I didn't actually quite realise it. The LCK format this year might be the singular worst format ever in League of Legends relative to how long how much we know about formats and everything to do it. Now, that might sound like hyperbole. It's like, oh, it's an average normal LCK year. It's like, no, that's what they do. See, they've dressed it up, but it's actually an abomination. Like, it's absolutely the worst thing ever. Just take, right, the first stand, like, split, okay? Where you had a team like T1 actually being punished because people in their group played worse, and so then they had to then be seeded against other harder opponents because people in their group lost to Check's Notes, D plus Kia, and like Gen G, and because Hammer dropped games. So potentially T1 never actually got seeded. Now, it was funny to watch. We all did enjoy like them losing like those games we shared in it. However, it was a bit of bullshit, right? Then we go into the LCK Road to MSI. To the best of my knowledge, it's not even a trophy. It's literally just qualifications to MSI. We are going to see two top seeded BO5s. What? An entire BO3 regular split to see two elite BO5s. Excuse me? Whose fucking idea was this? This is the worst idea I've ever seen in LCK. And then it gets worse. They then decided that they're going to, finally, the Koreans are copying the Chinese at something, but they decided, like fucking item builds, if you were to like watch Chovy's, they've decided to go and copy the LPL in terms of going to have segregated groups, right, to qualify you for the World Championships, right? But even worse than that, all the teams from 1 to 6 get double elimination going into the qualification for Worlds. As in, everyone is going to get like 2 lives, like double elimination. The 1 and 2 seed just get like seeded further across. So potentially by the end of the year, like top seeded like games, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 4. We're going to have 9 top seeded games in LCK this year. What, is this NA 2013 again? What the fuck is going on? And how has this happened in Korea? And nobody's like talking about it. A couple of people have just noticed now on Twitter that they've realised, oh, Gen G's capstone, best split ever, is literally like going to be like faulted by the fact that like playoffs, relative to other LCK years, just doesn't matter. I can't find a domestic tournament that's worse. I actually can't, unless there's some fringe tier 3 thing. That
at least out the major regions, yeah.
Yes.
I have one that's probably worse, but I
Right.
think this is the second worst. I think
There
the
we go.
BO2 LCS NA 2016 or 2017 was like the most disgusting tournament I've ever had to follow. I remember casting it, ending up on I don't remember the team. I think it was like Team Impulse versus like Echo Fox 1-1, right? And you cast that from Europe like at 1 a.m. It was like absolutely horrendous. It was like, I think it was group seeded teams, but I have that memory from like
No,
2017 or 2016.
NA was BO3 because American
EU
sports have
maybe?
players.
EU?
And then
Oh, it was EU then.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's EU.
EU was BO2 because football has draws.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
actually what
I like
it
BO2.
is.
I do like BO2 personally, as long as they are like single rune robin, because it allows everybody to play on the same patch, red and blue side, which I think is really
right,
good in terms of competitiveness. But it was a double round robin BO2 in EU, and the teams were god awful. And I think that's the only one time
Right.
I would challenge the current LCK with, because I'm on your side. Like it is so egregious that like the you know, like I don't know how it's kind of the gem of the crown, right? The jewel of the crown, I think you say in English. Like LCK is supposedly the best level of League of Legends that's served on a silver platter to the rest of the world to learn, to be enthusiast about, and you have to swim through a swamp full of NA, LTA, Southern LTA, EU, LFL, and at the end, right, you can get that like series between T1 and HLE, which has like this crazy scenario, and we're like deprived of it. I think it's critical that like, I don't know, like, I mean, Keire said it all. I don't think it's a hot take, to be honest, because I think everybody would be on your end if they actually looked at the format and you actually like break down the figures. So I think the hot thing is actually the fact that nobody's talking about it, and it should be a hot topic. But I think that's like the take in itself is very cool, because I don't know who wants more of DNF and less of like Gen G versus T1. I don't see anyone liking that.
Yeah, it's madness.
By the way, here's the reason it's a hot take, is like you say, I do think, one, people still haven't noticed. It's only from talk shows that people are starting to notice. And then two, the reason it's a hot take is, obviously people would have to have a very expansive knowledge, like some of the people in this chat do, of other formats to know why it's that bad. Like, what they might not realise is, there've been plenty of scoffed formats over the years. Like, I used to think when LCK only did the Gauntlet was kind of wild. At least it had a final. This would be like, this is a Gauntlet without a final, for fuck's sake. So the reason it's crazy is, first of all, the idea you have an LCK split without a final. Right, pause. The finals of LCK are probably historically the best events in all of League of Legends history. The setup, the Caster John guy comes out, blah, 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 blah. The hype of it all, those pre-game segments where you trash talk. Brother, I'm afraid this time I will be the one who will collect the trophy and you'll have to suffer again. But I wish you best luck in next split. All that animation, that's what, we're not going to even have that. Essentially, if you asked me what's the best part about LCK, the first thing that I put at the top of the list, you've just crossed it off like, nah, we're going to kick that out, actually. Which is like, oh, so for example, I'll tie it to the current example. As of right now, barring an actual miracle, Gen G is going to do an undefeated split and join that old T1 team from like 3 years ago. It's like one of the only teams to do this. It's going to mean so much less because there isn't even going to be a final for them to win. If they win the match immediately, they're just at MSI, but there's no final. Like, that is so stupid. It almost beggars belief why you would design the format that way. Like I say, you're taking the best part of the format out of it. I mean, I'll just give people the obvious analogy. Imagine if they just said at the end of the NBA this year, we're just going to have a Western Conference and an Eastern Conference champion, but let's not bother having a final. Like, it was all for the final. That's what we're trying to build towards now. That's where all the narratives get concrete, and then it's awesome as to who wins and who loses. Then I'll throw this out there, because you made it more about the overall circuit within Korea, and I also agree. Like, here's one thing that's mental. Even though I enjoyed the LCK Cup, even though it's a perfect chance to laugh at T1 fans and go, you finished like fifth, and even Nongshim was Eddie. Yeah, but they didn't play Nongshim guys. Like, they probably would have beaten Nongshim in a BO5. They probably weren't actually the fifth or sixth best. They were probably like third or fourth best. Like, so first of all, that was nonsense, because as you say, they got a harder opponent, the literal champion, by the way, just because some other team fucked up in their group. That is just stupid. And then secondly, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, because I only found this out from listening to the LCK broadcast. Did you know that within Korea, they're trying to act like LCK Cop isn't like an LCK split, and it's more like a Kesper Cop and shouldn't even count to... Which is like, what? What are we doing then? I thought that was like an extra split. That was awesome. So already that's making me worried. And then, as you say, the suffering doesn't stop there, Keire, because then for summer, you're trying to copy the LPL. Now, if anyone follows my Twitter, they'll know I think the LPL's implementation of segregate groups is the best change in years in formats. But that's because the LPL famously has like about 9 fucking really good teams. So for that, it makes it dope. This makes it absolute shit. This doesn't even work. And whichever one, by the way, it's going to be either D+ or KT at this point. Whichever one doesn't make it and has to go into the bottom group, that's like a fucking struggle session, mate. You just spend a split playing the shitter teams, and even though they do that thing at the end, like they do in the LPL, like, yeah, but if you win that shit group, you get to come to the playoffs. Good luck! I'd like to see you qualify the Worlds after playing fucking Freaks 7 million times. Like, it's going to be really hard, mate. And spoiler, if you know Koreans, they're going to be ruthless to whichever one. Like, spoiler, whichever team goes to that bottom group, you aren't getting scrims against Gen G anymore. See ya, that's off, that's done, that's over for you. You're watching the fucking VODs like the rest of us. Like, it's actually going to make it way more ridiculous. Like, it's the ultimate, like, haves than have-nots, this fucking group. And the difference is, this is the saddest thing of all. Bro, last year, the format they've had the last 2 years in LCK, I think that was an amazing playoff format where you get there, but it's the first round's the single elim, but then you select the player team. By the way, I already gave that great entertainment when KT picked T1 that one time, where on paper it was the right pick, but obviously now that ended up being even more epic when T1 beat them. It had the double elim component, which meant you couldn't like fluke it. And by the way, it usually meant you got 2 banger series between the 2 best teams. You got 2 BO5. So to me, I thought that format was dope. Bear in mind, listen, LPL's was maybe better, but they have more good teams, so I want more playoff teams there. I thought LCK had, like, for their league, the perfect format. I thought they fucking killed it. So why they then go, scrumple all that up, chuck that in the Kobe in the bin, like, why? You just had it. You just had the fucking format, you idiot. So I'm with you. I actually, even though I agree with Zaboutine, look, I don't think anyone is typing in the chat right now, what are you talking about, Keire? This is an awesome format. But I do think in the context that people aren't outraged. Like, by the way, this wasn't like the #1 thread on Reddit. This wasn't some like big, what are we doing? This isn't the thing that all double it. What the hell over in LCK, which I definitely watched. They're doing a win, no final. Like, no one even gives a fuck. The only people who cares, like me, you, Zaboutine, fucking Yamato Cannon, Dom. That's about it. I don't even know. By the way, I don't even think I've seen LS go off on this, and LS loves to complain about minor things. Whatever. There's so many jokes I can insert there.
It's the final nail in the coffin of the OG and legacy, you know?
No, yeah.
All these years of OG and production, and there was still like this small, you know, like pieces of broadcast, of events that like, oh yeah, it's like LCK didn't kill that, and they were like, no, just take the flamethrower, just burn everything down to the ground. And the worst part of that, just to add on top of that, is LEC tried to have only one trophy at the end of the year last year, right?
Season finals.
So you would assume there would be some type of feedback in Riot where like the EU region feedbacks Central and be like, yeah, we tried. I think the audience wasn't really receptive to that. I think it's better to get a trophy per split and stuff. And then LCK is like, oh, we're going to just get 1 trophy for the year. And then, you know, Central just hits them with like some, you know, wisdom of like, I don't think it's great because in EU it didn't work. It's like, no, that doesn't work. It's just silos until Worlds. And these guys just like took the flamethrower and just burnt something that was not only working, but the best formats and league in the whole world for pretty much 10 years. It's crazy.
I just realised they're trying to slow Chovy down. They've seen him catching on the faker on the LCK Wikipedia, and they were like, fuck it. Okay. Well, if you only have one LCK a year, that'll slow him down.
Like by your logic, that's why the LCK Cup doesn't count, even though he didn't win it. Because the guy who's the president of Kesper's like, hit the kill switch. He's about to catch faker. Kill, shut it down. I love it. Okay.
What do you mean he's not going to the military? He can play for how many years? That's like, slow him down! Slow him down!
Yeah, the other joke is they'll then introduce a thing. You know, they already made that thing where if you win the Asian Games, you get the exemption or whatever. They should just bring in a thing now where it's like you actually just mandatorily have to do it at whatever in 1 year. Chovy's age is like 26 or something. Like, you actually have to go to the military. Because you're right, at this point in time, like you actually need to like rig the system and stop Chovy winning. In case no one notices, there was that Reddit thread the other day. He has lost something mental, like 11 series in 4 years or something, man. It's like, what? Like you guys never loses, basically. No, I'm with you. Right, I'll now go to my hot take. It's actually a take I've just never heard anyone else express. Maybe people like mildly did it in the off season, but I actually think this is a narrative that is real. You know what's crazy right now? Is obviously T1 have flirted this split with getting relevant. Like the game against Jedi was one of the better games, even though they lost it. But then what happened is right after that, they then just shit the bed against all these other squads, and they've lost to Brion, and they lost just this game today to Nongshim that they were recording it. And not only have they thrown away their goodwill, but this now builds into what my hot take is, which is Chovy actually playing League of Legends and even winning championships, somehow, because he hasn't won Worlds, never actually brings him closer for some people in the debate of is he as good or better than Faker at League of Legends. But what's bizarre is I actually think that Faker having to play with Doran is doing more for Chovy's GOAT case than Chovy's play. Because even though Chovy's like unbeatable, I think when people see Faker play with Doran, they're like, how did Chovy win all those fucking titles? Because I said this on Twitter, like, bro, he won with Doran and, like, rookie pace. Like, if you're all big Goomer fans, so he's a two-time world champ, then you've got Doran and a two-time world champion. That should be pretty good, right? Go to work, Faker. You're the GOAT. Now just win, you can have a bad player a week, win me the championship. Even though, by the way, it's not actually a hard and fast rule like that. Like, spoiler, I don't think this means Faker's not the GOAT or something stupid. But I tell you what, I actually do think, in a weird way, the thing people didn't acknowledge about Chovy is, you notice they always make Chovy versus Faker or Faker versus Rookie. They always make it like a 1v1 discussion. They don't tend to talk about who your teammates were. I think what you're now realising, some of you out there, is Chovy's also done some pretty insane things with some somewhat not bad. I'll never say Doran is bad, by the way, but he's certainly not the best. And if you look at some of the other players he's had, I mean, you can go to the years he didn't win, the DRXs, the Hanwha Lives, the dodgy ones. Like, there were some of those ones. I always say that, to me, I know Yamata kind of never stops going on about it. It's the one where he did have the Hanwha Life one. Bro, he had Morgan and Willa. Like, let me know how many people can get them to the top 8 of Worlds, mate. Like, God bless if you can. So, what do you think? I actually think Doran playing with T1 is doing more for Chovy's legacy than fucking Chovy playing and winning. Thoughts, boys?
Doran is that Chinese like curse. What is it? May you be cursed to live in interesting times. It's like that is who is Doran fucking is. And it's like he is just like the challenge of like he's the ultimate. Like people talk about 369 being the dice godhead, but I actually think there's a bit of Doran, like a bit inside Doran as well, where he is one of the most like flippiest, inconsistent. I've seen this guy contest one split for the best top laner in LCK, and then the next again split, he has an absolute shambolic like piece of excrement. I can't explain it. The thing is like Doran, holistically, the reason he gets like memed on or like laughed at is because anyone that's actually worth comparing him to, it's laughable to like compare him to, because he's in this like horrible position where he does not compare to his peer group, but he also cannot go into the group below because he doesn't.
He's won too many championships too, as well. There's never been a player I've seen get more distance, won as many domestic championships as this guy. Yeah. He's stacking rings on rings.
And so like, and what people also begin to like realize is like when you have someone who is just that like incredibly flawed, like. A lot of Faker's teammates weren't like perfect. Like just pick out Wolf in like 2015, right? Okay, but they were actually really good, either through like Faker in game and like Coma, and like never actually being like catastrophic. Wolf and Bang were pretty catastrophic at MSI. Surprise, surprise. Faker and Easyhoon lost that one, right? But now Faker's experiencing modern League of Legends, post 2018 League of Legends, with like an insane high variance player. This is like Faker when he had the jungler in 2019 when they lost a bunch. Clid. I always get mixed up. Yeah, Clid. This is like Faker getting like Clid again. Like where Clid is an amazing player, but he was flippy as fuck. Like holy shit, when he wasn't on those things, and he could just lose. And it didn't happen to them domestically, that option. But Clid was a contribution to why they couldn't get over like G2 and stuff like that. Like, and so now you're seeing ilks of that again. The only difference is like Chovy actually did win in spite of all of that. Like, he actually had, like, Doran being, like, 0-3 in series, and then was carrying the map on, like, Aurelion Sol and Corkies and stuff like that. Like, the man's ability to play in spite of his teammates' deficits, he actually might be the ultimate, like, aura king in terms of, like, how bad his teammates play can affect his individual game. Not the outcome, but Chovy's actual own individual game is actually incredible. Like, he's unto his own in that terms. Like, he's a monolith.
I feel like, haters gonna hate, and the discussion about Chovy and Chovy's level is one of the most tedious and boring discussion that you can have with people online. Because, my philosophy teacher told me, like, when you want to kill your dog, you say that he has rabies.
As like an excuse to do it.
Like,
right, I get it.
Yeah, it's like you'll find something,
Yes.
to kind of like go for your case. And I think that's kind of like, it's always the one series where I didn't play well. That's the one lane where I was playing Sylas versus Zeka's Ahri, which is a terrible matchup. That's that one time where I missed one spell. But if you ask for any people that actually like follows League of Legends, like people like Dom, like Keire, they all will say, in terms of pure playing League of Legends, although it's not very exciting to watch at some points, Chovy is the single like peak in terms of consistency, playing League of Legends, not making mistakes, landing spells, dodging spells, moving on the lane, holding the right side of the lane, respecting tempo, building items. Even like most of his builds become staple for the rest of the world, and people overlook that part of the game. Like, he goes with like, I don't know, I'm gonna go like first strike on like Ahri, and then like 2 weeks later everybody picks first strike because everybody realized like, Chovy picks that and it's actually better because you have this and that runes. So it's like, I do agree with you that the Doran case actually advocates a lot in favor of Chovy, but if HAD didn't do it, then nothing can. And at this point, the discussion is, if he doesn't win multiple worlds, like, he has to win at least back-to-back worlds, plus probably other world championship. So see you in like 5 years to start a discussion about not him being the GOAT, because the GOAT is Faker, but just him playing better than Faker as sometimes. Then the haters will not stop. Like, you have enough firepower to break the arguments of these like few series that he lost like 2 years ago.
No, it's true. That's also, by the way, what I also love about this is, first of all, as pointed out, like, Doran is better than plebs think he is, but he does have that quality to him, even when, like, the game ends. I also think another problem he has for real is he just looks really maudlin on camera. He always looks like, oh, gosh, didn't go that well. He always has that look on the face cam and after the game of, like, he's like the guy who's, it looks like the rest of them have another WhatsApp group where they invite each other out for pizza and they don't invite him. You know what I mean? He has that, like, weird vibe about him where he just looks sad. And I have a feeling about him where, when I look how many championships he's had and how many times he's been on, like, he was in Gen G, fucking now he's in T1. He has like that fucking Forrest Gump thing, like, how's he getting it? What's going on? Why is this guy in the center of all this shit going on? Like the idea he's even involved in a GOAT discussion between Chovy and Faker, it's like, what? But I agree with you. I do think it's people over focus on his bad series. Like, all I'll say is this: if you're one of the people who only look at the games he has bad, that's an obvious one, by the way, the one we had the lane swap against Zeka. I'll just go ahead and remind you of some of the finals he played against fucking Zeus, mate. Like, he had some finals where he was the daddy. He fucking gave Zeus that work and made Zeus look like a choker. That happened.
That's superpower.
It did happen, though. It did happen, though.
I don't know how he does that, Matt. I think
no, it's like my saying always goes, Kiin. It's a great saying. I always say he was Zeus's kryptonite, but you have to understand, kryptonite can't fly and save people. Kryptonite isn't better than Superman, but it does kill Superman. That's what Doran did to Zeus. He was never better than Zeus, but I tell you what, he made Zeus look fucking stupid, didn't he? In fact, in general, by the way, there's one underrated detail. How many people just made Zeus look stupid? Kiin, fucking Doran, like, bro, I can accept when Bin beats you. You're not supposed to ever lose to these guys. I think what we'll do now is we will do a fan take. But first, speaking of fans and taking things, see this nice T-shirt I've got on? This is one of the, like, heavy-duty This is like a white/cream plain tee. It's obviously from the lovely Into the M, isn't it? Where, if you don't know, they always have sales going on. So they do bundles. 3 of these like plain tees is about $50 or so. 3 of the print tees. You think of the one I have of like the floral bonsai design tree. I had the one that's like a Neo Tokyo one. They have loads of print t-shirts, by the way. Also loads of other things that aren't just shirts. You get 3 of them for about $60. And also, whenever you use the code on the screen, intotheM.com/LFN, our customers always get 10% off, and it stacks. So if you get the $60 bundle, you get the 10% off with this. And right now, until the 1st of June, so check the date, act soon, there is a Memorial Day sale going on at Into the M, and certain things on their website, and there are loads of things listed, all sorts of apparel. Some of them go up to 70%. So as usual, use intotheM.com/LFN. You get the extra 10%. Off that, you would get 80% if it was indeed that high. If it was 50, you'd get 60. If it was, you can figure out maths. You know maths. You understand maths, in theory. So check out Into the M. Thank you, obviously, to Into the M, and for everyone who supported us. And if at the checkout they ask where you heard from us, just say Into the M or Hot Take Point Made or Keire said something too. Do one of those and it'll all work out. So now we will do a fan take. And remember the rule. To do a fan take, you do not write your comment in the YouTube channel. We don't necessarily even read those. What you do, subscribe to the Last Free Nation Discord, and there's a separate channel that says like LOL Hot Takes. When you are in there, I will remind you every time, so none of you can ever complain. If you don't want your name read out with the take, please say, do not read my name, please. Because everyone else doesn't write that. So we're about to say your name, motherfucker. So, hot take number 1 from the fans. Someone called Jay, and it looks like it's written Korean Jay, you know, Jae.
All right, okay.
He says, Bjergsen going to North America was the biggest downfall of the NA League due to his success leading to NA importing instead of developing more talents, such as the original Cloud9 team. Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Thoughts?
Holy
No,
It's a hot take. It's certainly a hot take.
No, we have a man, right, who thinks he knows NALCS, but he doesn't really. Okay, I'm going to tell you, going to drop some names on you. Okay?
Go on.
In 2013, there was a bunch of NA mid laners and talented NA mid laners coming through. So you had Link, Pole Belter, Shifter.
Yeah.
Don't just because he's a fucking meme. Shifter was a high.
He was good at the time,
player,
yeah.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
right. And I'm going to mention someone else here, a guy called ManCloud.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I remember.
ManCloud in 2013 was the fucking dog's bollocks, by the way. But the problem is he had this deficiency. They were tilt and int monsters, and they were the biggest chokers you have ever seen. That little conglomerate of like NA mids were very, very good. Not as good as the EU guys. They weren't as good as the EU guys. But they were very, very, very good. And the problem is that orgs just felt that they didn't have like the lasting power, right? Because relative to like Bjergsen had all these highlights reels versus them and all these stuff. And what we didn't know at the time was that even for like EU, not entirely, but I love it, Bjergsen was a bit of a black swan in terms of he was actually quite a special, like talismanic player who'd go on to be one of the best. Like, I'm sure if Bjergsen had played in the EU, he maybe not have had been the same like Bjergsen, but it has still been known as a very, very, very good European player. And then because of that, right, that little like group of like players getting like dogged on by Bjergsen, that was it. But the talent was like there, but the teams just chose to like move away, and then you ended up with all like the dodgy. Yeah, a team. Well, first of all, one team literally turned Chinese.
Yeah,
so there goes a percentage. There's 1/10 of your slots just gone. Then what do you call it? The high like risk problem like thing happened. So they literally lost one of like their best players, and High had to like role swap, and they went away and got like Jensen and stuff like that. So there was loads and loads of all these factors. But the thing is that if you go and look at it, there were so many attempts to try and replace these people. Who's the guy that looks like fucking? He's American. He looks like he was just a default American character. He's actually Bjergsen's like friend. He was in all those field TL rosters. Thorin. What is it in like 2017?
Give me the role at least, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the mid laner.
Jesus Christ.
He's got the blonde hair. I can't remember what his name is.
And is he an import?
No, he's not an import. He's an actual NA player, but he could never make it. That was the point. I'll go find his name. But anyway, Golden Glue. There we go.
Golden Glue. Okay, fucking hell. I've never guessed that in a million years. Okay.
The amount of chances they gave people like Golden Glue, right? Okay,
that's true. You had a lot.
Yeah, you don't realise they gave all these like people are like, oh, they ditched all these rookies. It's like they didn't. They tried them over and over and over and over again, and guess what? They were dog shit. They were really, really, really bad. Basically, like, 2 of them could hang, which was like Pole Belter as long as double lift with his ADC, and then like who else? fuck, I can't even think of the other name at the time. But it wasn't good.
I have names if you want. I can take I can take the torch and keep going. I work there, right? It has been my job for 2 years and a half. I kind of know a little bit. So there is this very weird thinking coming from the North American community, and that there is a decision from the management of the orgs to not go for NA talent. If the NA talent, right, was as good as the imported talent, while being cheaper because they come from Division 2, everybody would battle over it.
It would be like the ERLs. It would be like LFL players. They'd all come straight to LEC, wouldn't they? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at over the years. So I picked 2020. I remember my choice was either Damonte, Pobelter, or I went with Eka because I wanted to try to promote someone, right? I mean, it backfired on me, but I went for a tryout. Soligo never made it. Damonte won some things, but was capped. Ryoma was imported. Palafox did decent. Ablaze Olive, everybody forgot about it. Insanity, I was coaching him. Was not enough after a year, got replaced. Go on 2014, Link, left. Pobelter was already there. Shifter, you said it. Boy, Scara, went content creator. Golden Glue, took 3 years to pop and become relevant in Cloud9 Academy. Reginald, Manclad, these players played. And they lost. They lost their spot to Power of Evil. They lost their spot to Crown. They lost their spot to Jensen. They lost their spot to I'm trying to find Jizuke, to Niski. They just lost their spot because they were not good enough. There was not a single reason for coaches and owners not to go for a player that you can play. And I'm speaking big NA LCS money, right? 2015 to 2021. You had to spend an immense amount of money to import. It was extremely expensive. And the players coming from Challenger Series were extremely cheap. A player from Challenger Series will play for most the base salary, whereas an import would play hundreds of thousands of dollars. But yet, if you went for a rookie and you didn't have the perfect scouting, you would just literally last. And everybody who tried that to go for full NA eventually lost. And I don't think that Bjergsen has anything to do with it. He was just the first of a long series of all players from abroad are better at mid lane. Because there is not a big list of mid laners from NA that did something. I think Jojo Pune is one of the last ones. And even the current, if you look at the current meta and the current LEC, right, LTA now, there is not that many NA mids, right? There's never been. So I feel like it's so. I feel like you said it well, Keire. It's he thinks he understands, but everybody would hire the cheap talent if they were there. I promise.
They would. That's the thing.
No, by the way, what's funny about this take is, I know what you mean. There's a grain of not truth but logic to it, which is what Keire said, which is it is true that they definitely didn't actually get the most out of their original crop of NA talent. It's not like NA was half as good as EU and then they brought the EU players. At the time they were vaguely comparable. If you don't know the ManCloud player he referenced, I think at the time had the record for most solo kills in a split or something. He had some crazy stat like that, or most kills in the league or something. So these players were all good. But yeah, when you saw them go international, that's why immediately GMs were let's bring in a fucking EU player. Why waste our time with this? Because the problem also you've had here is, notice you're making the mistake of acting like it's just... You're almost doing what people do with all racial quarter arguments. You're acting like it's just because someone did do this approach that the outcome went this way. No, also this is what the resources were. NA doesn't have as many players, and especially as the years went on, has less talents to work with. So there's more people you can choose from. Not just in Europe. I mean, if anything, the last 4 or 5 years hasn't been about EU. It's about finding the challenger Korean player who hasn't been on an LCK team yet. That's actually been the most OP value in years and years. Or reclaiming a player like Keire with Carmine Corp. There's the other one you do. You get the one that still has a few years left, but he can come to your team, I mean, the joke is Zaboutine did that himself with Crown, didn't he? And it actually was good. People do forget that, by the way. They always go, Crown, the worst player who won Worlds. After that, he went back and played in Zaboutine's Immortals, and he was an Optic, rather, sorry, and he was good. He actually had some fucking games he straight carried. Like, he had some TF games that were fucking dope, mate. He was a really good player. First things first, I'll do 2 quick angles on this. One, let's just start now. So the people who don't know the history don't go, well, I didn't watch the game. Let's just do modern day mids, shall we? Because by the way, spoiler, your biggest problem, if you want to say NA shouldn't import, is mid lane's the most important in the game. And NA, as pointed out in this discussion, has some of the least mid lane talent ever. Meanwhile, what region that also speaks the same language as them has loads of NA, has loads of mids? Europe! It's why Aberdeen, by the way, you don't go there when you're at your best. You go there when you're unknown, or after that. You go there when they won't give you the gig anymore. So the problem is, EU just produces mid laners. We all know that. They do it to this day. We still just churn them out of VRLs that like have a chance. And the joke is, by the way, probably more of them could go to NA. Some of them could go and take some of those fucking slots off players now, but they just don't get the hype. So I will just say this. Think of the modern day people we've been told, because obviously the problem with the ManCloud example is, Keire, someone will have to be over 12 years in the game to know what the fuck that example is. I'll just use the last 3 or 4 years, right? Remember some of the big name mids we were supposed to respect? Parlofox. Which one of you, right this second, NA fan, would tell me Cloud9 should recruit Parlofox tomorrow? You don't even care about Parlofox anymore, and that was only fucking 1.5 years ago. Then let's go to, like last year's run. You all glazed FLyQuest, they didn't have any fucking NA players. It's all just Europeans, and like that was a mid laner doing from Korea, doing all that work. So the problem is, first of all, these players, contracts, hey, you know, they gave up on him in LCS. Yeah, you see why now? He was never on the level of Jankos and Inspired, you idiot. He just had like the odd season he was good, and then he had splits when he wasn't good, and he's had times when he wasn't good at all. So my problem is, first of all, the talent isn't there in the way he implies. Hence why the whole question wasn't him listing 15 names that didn't get a chance. He didn't list any fucking names, did he? He just said something, the original Cloud9. That's it. Like, that's all he gave me. Like, go on.
I have a question.
Go on.
How many in the current LTA North playoff? How many North American players there is?
I'm going to guess
not counting
like 3 or something ridiculous. What is it?
It's 8 out of the 6 teams. If you take Team Liquid, Cloud9 Team, FlyQuest, Cloud9 Team Liquid, Shopify Rebellion, 100 Thief, and Dignitas.
Oh, right, it's all
there
6
is
teams,
only
right?
8 North American players. Only 8.
That's good. I like that. That's good. That's going to come on to my next point there. That tells you something.
Also, here's the other thing. I'll just do a very, very quick run through as the historian. So if you want to just take the best placings NA has ever had, every single one of them involves an import player. Let me quickly run through. I'll go in reverse order. So last Worlds, FlyQuest made top 8. Fuck all NA players in there. Then in Season 13 Worlds, NRG made top 8. Spoiler, Ignar is Korean and will always be Korean and will never be an American player. Tell me which American engaged fucking support player would have done that role. There isn't one. So skip past that one. Then we'll go to how about when Team Liquid made that MSI final. Core JJ was the man and is the main reason that they beat fucking IG, and by the way, Jensen was there too. Then go to Season 8 when Cloud9 made semis at Worlds. Jensen and Svenskeren won that team. They're in no context NA players. Keep going back. You can go to, even, by the way, this is more of a technicality, but even when CLG made that MSI final, he was born in France, I believe. He is French and then ethnically Korean. I know he has like American citizenship or whatever, but like you're fucking pushing the boat out if that's your NA talent. That's all I'm going to say. People born in France who lived in Korea, you know what I mean? Like, give me a break. So all I'm going to say is, and by the way, even your beloved TSM, remember the one time they made top 8? They had Lost Boy, a literal OGN champion, sitting in their team, and they were coached by a Korean. Like, bro, there isn't this NA team. The joke is, it's only the Cloud9 team you mentioned. And by the way, do you remember when that Cloud9 team then made upgrades? They got way better by putting Jensen in the team. What do you guys, your own examples count against you. So, spoiler, Jay, you weren't the one we were all going to go. Great hot take. You were the one that got roasted. That was your role on this particular episode. Thank you to you for submitting your question. We have summarily roasted every aspect of everything you've said. And at the end, I just want to know, how is NA going to produce good League of Legends players when they can't even produce good hot takes? That's just mean. That's just mean at the end, but whatever. Listen, it's just mean, isn't it? But I don't even technically know if he's from NA, but I'm just dissing him too, yeah. He can catch the straight also. It's all good. What about, how do you take care of your money? I have a Ridge wallet, a wonderful Ridge wallet, which if you don't know, comes in a million different designs and colours. I just picked a blue one because I'm a boomer, and I've got sort of like, I think it's like a carbon graphite type thing. They have some, if you've seen like Maui has one that's like metal or something like that with like an interesting, got loads of different, I think they've got like 50 plus colours and types, etc. They have like one of those money back guarantees where if you don't like a happiness guarantee, I think it's like 99 days or something, you don't like it, you can send it back, get your money back. It has technology on it, so if someone has, if someone is using a device where they like can go past you and digitally read your cards and steal the info, which apparently is a thing called digital pickpocketing, this has like, you can get an RFID like blocker on this. You can also on the back, like obviously it stretches, and more the cards you put in, you could put like 3 and it would go tight. I have like about, I don't know, 10. You could put 12 in there. They also have a key case that fits up to 6 keys, makes them not jingle. It's all really great stuff. You can put in like add-ons that you can put in a coin tray if you're a boomer and still use coins back in the day, or you don't live in the Nordic region, etc. Shout out Germany, you'd have to use it there for everything, wouldn't you? Because bizarrely, even though they're all supposed to report their tax, all the kebabs are paid for in coins. Anyway, that's a side thing. Definitely wasn't in the copy, don't worry about that. But anyway, if you are in Germany, you can put your coins in the coin case, can't you, to buy your doner kebab or whatever the fuck you're buying. So shout out to Ridge, obviously great tech. And you can go, it's on the screen, to, wait 1 second, we'll edit this. Oh, there we go. Right, you can go to ridge.com/hot, so just HOT, and you will get up to 40% off because they've got a Memorial Day sale going on right now. Up to 40% off. Just head to ridge.com/hot, HOT, to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Why not say Last Free Nation or Hot Take Point Made? Please support our show. And if you want to get great savings on a wallet, by the way, these are also really great quality of life upgrades because of how small they are and how compact and how great utility. Great gift, right, by the way, for like a dad or an uncle or a brother or someone who just wouldn't think to buy it for themselves. Right, who wants to go next? Does someone have a good tip? By the way, we're obviously not going to do a load more, so hit me with your best take if you're going to do it. Come on.
Mate, I've got a continuity one because I couldn't believe this. I actually think the top 2, and I only say top 3. I actually think the 2 best Western teams are Cloud9 and what do you call it? The other one, like full on West.
FLyQuest?
And FLyQuest. I actually think.
Wait a minute. Your hot take, just before I even hear the points, I want to take this as a full hot take with no. Your hot take is that Cloud9 and FLyQuest are better than all the EU teams.
Yeah, they are.
Right,
they are.
You know
I
what?
Can't believe.
Let me just get buckle in. Okay, get airbag. Got the airbag. Right, emergency systems on. Oxygen to the appropriate level. Right, go.
Right. Mate, I can't believe I'm saying this. Mate, did we all watch the European playoffs, mate? Like it was bad. Like it wasn't good. And the only team that got better is G2. And I'll give G2 their graces, right? G2 genuinely are like, they can maybe like do it. The problem is the other great, like not great, but good European team, Fnatic, had instantly just proven that they will lose to a name badge. And that team also loses to like setting. Like if you make it an international tournament, they'll also find a way to lose. Like they got bummed off of the fucking TL team, right? Where like we had APA teaching humanoid laning things on Cassidy, and I'm like, what world are we living in? And I actually think like go watch like the C9 team play, right? I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not trying to. The problem is it's not as good as like Korea, because in Korea you could be reliant that the laning, there was a degree to which, because the camera you just can't see it, you don't have the view, right? So like outside of the fact that unless the laning is just completely terrible, like mate, C9 was playing really well. FLyQuest weren't. Like I'm not gonna give FLyQuest like the thing that they were like playing really well. But it wasn't any worse or better than the madness that I watched in the Madcoy like KC. Like Madcoy KC was banger to watch. It was exciting. But it was exciting the same way fucking Fnatic versus Unicorns of Love was exciting. It was some of the worst League of Legends ever. They were just counter throwing into each other, and it just people went from being macro, like scaled up teams to just like smashing heads into each other. So mate, like if you actually go look at it, like C9, like at a minimum, they look like the cleanest like games. And I'm even apprehensive because, like, mate, go look at G2. G2 had a couple of fucking throws in them as well. Like, G2 had that game into Mad Lions, the Smolder Senna game, where they just kept on forgetting that Alvaro's invincible for the first 2 seconds whenever you damage him. So, Bray, it's pretty dicey.
So you gotta tell me, like, we're gonna take the sample of FLyQuest beating SR and Cloud9 beating Team Liquid, right? So no position, right? Like they play a cup versus AI, and then we take that game and we compare it to like C9 G2
KC and all those,
playing versus
yeah.
K Corp, Fnatic playing, you know, MCOY, like teams that actually play the game, that like there is a struggle. And then you're gonna, I'm gonna lean first towards you, which is I do think that the gap between EU and NA has never been that thin, because I think that the top level of EU has a little bit dropped, and I think currently I don't think there is a EU team that's super in shape. KC doesn't look that great. That's why I think MCOY looks so good. But on the other hand, there is really no opposition at all in NA. Like there is two teams, and they definitely play a decent League of Legends. But I would not assume, like, if you put good laners and you start pressuring Blabber, I think it's much harder. I think that a lot of teams don't do the prep well against C9, and they give them like win condition for free in drafts. I think that in a straight BO5 where they have to play more than 3 games because opponent actually play the lane, it's going to be much harder to actually drop down in Fearless and have like good champions for them. FlyQuest, question mark. I think when they play well, it's actually one of the better Western team. I would give you that. But I think that a good day FlyQuest against a good day G2 with Scumon, for instance, against Inspire, that would be a dope matchup, by the way. Because both have the same playstyle as the first time. Like Inspired could play against himself. Would be a good matchup, but I think, for instance, K-Corp, in terms of individualities, they would just smash FlyQuest and Cloud9. I don't think Sven, you know, can hold his ground against Kalist, for instance. I don't think it's possible. And I don't think it's possible against Upset either.
Mate,
so I think just play a difference.
Yeah, but Mad Lion players aren't absolute bangers, mate. Like they're not like top fucking like Jojo for half the season wasn't barely a mid laner. He was barely a human.
Currently he's very good.
Yeah, currently he's all right. Yeah, what do you call it? Like
he's
doing
better
now. Snoopeh and Alvaro laning, I don't think I would ever describe it as like a strength of theirs. Like,
I mean, you say better Western teams, both, right? That's what you say. So,
but mate, I watched KC lose to Mad Lions. Like that's
I think KC doesn't lose to any of these teams. Maybe in BO5 they can lose to FlyQuest like 3-2. I think G2 doesn't lose to Cloud9. I think G2 might lose to FlyQuest, but it's gonna be by a very small margin. I think MCOY can beat both in a good day. I think Fnatic should, on the paper, smash both. So I completely disagree. I think that if FlyQuest and Cloud9 is gonna be a counter hot take, I think if FlyQuest and Cloud9 were playing currently into the LEC, they wouldn't make it top 4.
So we've actually got a counter hot take. We've got two bookend hot takes here. No, here's the problem I have, is this take I think would be a great take last year. If you want to tell me that the best team then, whether it's TL or FlyQuest, is better then, maybe I'd agree with you. I thought LEC was a mess then. And you watched the games of like, when you would have BDS play Fnatic, play G2, you were like, every series is a fucking nightmare. Like, no, this is clean. No one's ever winning. Like, you know, I'm just ahead of you in lane, then I do all the right macro moves, then I win the objective. That never happened. It was always like someone throws, someone's mega far ahead, someone wins a scrappy fight. The difference is this year, I'm more with Zaboutine. If anything, I actually think that like Carmine Corp and Fnatic losing just shows how strong the top 4 in Europe is. I don't see that as like weakness. I think they'll fucking, like, I agree, look, the matches weren't great, but my problem is, like, you're also, this is why it's a good hot take, you're also doing a very limited time frame. Like, bro, if I go back even to the regular split and to last split, they had 4 teams that just all took turns beating each other too, mate. Like, even in this split, I think Cloud9 lost to like 100 Thieves, and then like fucking FlyQuest lost to like, I don't know, fucking C9, and then like TL could win and beat Pete. Like, the joke is they had like 4 teams that could all just beat each other depending on what the bracket was. So I think it was actually quite comparable to what we've got in Europe now. And then the difference is, I agree with what Zaboutine said. My problem is when I directly try and compare the teams, if I put them head to head tomorrow, it depends if you're letting me make the matchups, mate. If I make the matchups, I think we can clap these NA teams. Like, you know what? Oh, wow. Carmine Corp, oh, genius. All the macro and the coaching and Bwipo understands learning. You know what? Can I see FlyQuest against Carmine Corp in a BO5, please? First of all, I'd love to see Bwipo do all that shit against Keire. Spoiler, it won't be happening. That's not fucking the players he plays against in fucking NA. He's not playing against Licorice now, mate, who was about 6 years beyond his prime. He's playing against someone who actually looks like one of the best top laners in the world. Then consider this factor. Mate, FlyQuest can do all the cool shit they want in lane. Let me see them win those team fights. If they can really win against those KC team fights, which I think are fucking really high level, then I'll say, tip my hat, you were right, Keire, I was wrong all along. I just don't know if I believe it. I feel like they've done the usual NA thing, which is within their little bubble, they look like the big fish in the small pond. The problem is, in your analogy, we're going to chuck them into the ocean, and along comes the fucking shark, mate. And all of a sudden, being that pike in that pond isn't so cool anymore because the shark bite your fucking head off. And then that's without. Oh, by the way, I actually totally agree. I think a good point was the Skumond one. The reason why people think I overrate Skumond is, bro, I am getting crazy flashbacks to when Inspired was on Rogue, and the same thing happened because you weren't winning. Everyone was telling me he's the problem, and I used to go, he's fucking unbelievable. Like he's probably like the MVP of the league. Like you just don't see that. Unfortunately, if you're a jungler, you all want the Blabbers of the world. You all want the Razorks. You want the guy who goes on Lee Sin and goes some crazy and get. That was never these guys. These guys, what I love about Skumond and Inspired is they are like Korean junglers. They just control the whole fucking map. Like you can tell, by the way, they don't do the thing like, yes sir, double fast sir, and they tell the laner I'm not coming. You know what, mate? I'll be there in a minute. Don't worry about me. You're on your own for the next 2 minutes. Like, that's what I love about these guys. So I even think, by the way, I would love. Here's the thing. We will see it for MSI, but I would obviously love to have this tested. I think it's a good take leading into MSI. Well, even though I think you have fucking overcooked it.
No, okay.
You have overcooked.
No, right, okay, we'll put it to the down, right, okay? I can't think of a state to make it interesting, right? Okay. But, right, I can't think for G2, because I will always give the benefit of the doubt from them, and I think you're an idiot, because there has to be a degree of seriousness to this show, right? I think the NA teams will outplace the other EU seed at EUWC and MSI. Unless there's like some insane meta thing, right? Okay.
He means not G2, the other EU seed. They will outplace them.
They'll both outplace. Right. Both of them will outplace. That's at those events.
I give it to you. I don't care about placing. Placing doesn't matter.
What about if they play directly then? They'll beat them head to head if they play Keire. How about that?
Yeah. I think
that's better. That's better. Yeah, I'm with you.
There we go.
I'm with you. There you go. Okay. That's better. Because the problem with the placing one, I know where Zaboutine was going there. NA's been playing the placing game for the last 2 Worlds, Zaboutine, where they don't even have to play us, but if they magically get through, hey, I am top 8 at Worlds. Like, shut the fuck up, mate. Like, some of these top 8s are weak as fuck. But anyway, the last take of the show, unless Zaboutine has one, is going to be a fan one. So let me do this one. Do you have one, by the way? Are you going to do one after this? Do you have one more take?
No, I'm good.
All right, we'll just do this fan one then. So Nadnurb says, and this, spoiler, I'll preempt this. This isn't necessarily one that's mockery. I think this is an interesting one, actually. Right, Nadnurb says, if he managed his career better, Kiin, the Gen G top laner, would be the GOAT top laner. He has insane longevity, as he has been one of the best top laners in the world consistently for 8 years, in spite of being mostly on mediocre Afrika rosters. His problem was staying on Afrika when he was the best top laner in Korea in 2019 and 2020, as he wasn't paired with an elite mid laner until 2023 KT when he got with BDD. So today, this is more of like a food for thought take to me. The reason I think it's a good hot take as an outset, by the way, is because I don't think this guy's even in the. If you ask a fan, think about what just happened with Hall of Legends, guys, where you have the names that come up, Uzi. I always say Deft doesn't even get ahead of Uzi. Forget that. Kiin wouldn't even be the first name out of people's mouths. If you ask them top lane, they're going to say the Shy, Smeb. They're going to keep going down the bin. These are all the names they're going to list. Yeah, of course. The joke is they might even put 369 in over Kiin. Who knows, right? Depends if you're an LPL watcher. So, what do you think? Who wants to start me on this one? Could Kiin have been if he'd have done his career differently, would he have been the GOAT top laner, Zaboutine?
I really hate these takes because you think that players are an all-inclusive package and decision-making is part of them. Surrounding yourself with good people is part of it. I think that Faker could have, banked and went in NA or China a long time ago, decided to stay through the hardships as well. That's what cemented his legacy. I think if you stay in your current position and you don't ask to look for opportunities on the market, you are not doing your job if you're a really good player. And on top of that, he got clapped multiple times by players from his generation. I don't think that he was better than Can at his prime. I don't think that he was better than what's his name before Zeus. I mean, Kana was probably better than him, when he was at this time in T1. I think Kiin is a really, really good top laner. I think he's probably one of the most complete one because he can play either the mages. He's one of probably the best mages player in top lane at the moment. But it's really rewriting history because the best team in Korea in 2020 was Damwon, and I think that Nuguri was that's the name I was looking for. Nuguri was better. Everybody still fantasizes about Prime Nuguri as if it was the best player of all time, and then you have the new generation with Zeus, with Bin. I think that Kiin, although he belongs to the elite top laner, where like Doran is kind of the gatekeeper. I don't think he's ever been consistently the best at his position for more than a regular season, and has never shown ability to create edges to the point where he would be noticed, right? Because I think that in Korea, the market is very responsive to how good you are as a player. And I've rarely seen excellent player playing in the lower level teams not get drafted to either Genji or T1 or in China in the like 2 or 3 years. And I think that Kiin has a slow blooming phase where he had to learn a lot because he's just talented but didn't really play the map well. And I think that's just the fact that him playing earlier in his career with a better team, he would look like Doran playing in T1 right now. He would be the weakest chainling, and everybody would have hated him. While now that he's mature and he has like a very consistent and well-rounded gameplay, he can shine versus the Zeus and the Bin, where he could have not done that in the past. So I think you can't just like flip things outside of the timeline and then say, oh, if I change that, it's gonna be better, because I think that the player he was at the time he was at Freaks wasn't enough to actually be one of the best.
I really slither on this. I actually think he might be one of the. It's hard because top lane is such a weird role, right? Okay, right, where like it depends on what you want. Like it's weird. This is like a weird thing. It's so strange that top lane, like League of Legends mirrored Dota, where like top lane actually ends up becoming more like off lane and like Dota, where it becomes more of like there's like two types of people. You have these extremely greedy top laners who just want to be carry players, and then you have these like Swiss Army knife utility people, and like that's who Kiin is. Like Kiin is, and like to give an analogy, is the Zai. He's the Zai of like the top lane, right? Okay, where he's like an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 and all the different things you could want from, right? But he isn't like Ben, the Shy, Naguri, 10 out of 10s. Like, and in those like 10 out of 10 metrics, if the meta or like the game, that's what matters at that time, then like, yeah, he doesn't like look as good as that. The problem is like once you set up a team like Gen G that really wants like versatility and depth, like people like Kiin like look completely. And the thing is like Kiin's done this for like so many different like teams. Like the best like argument for Kiin is as like he has played with a plethora of like loads of different like players. And no matter where he's like went, he's either been the best or second best team. Like him and BDD, like arguably with Lehens, but that's a more like ethereal topic. Like took that KT team to almost a perfect season. I think they went 17-1, which they had no fucking right in doing. And if you go watch the games, it's like Kiin like basically picks and plays for lane advantage. He's basically playing a selfish fucking the Shy like variant of himself. And then the next again year he's on Gen G and he's completely like doesn't look anything like what he did last year. He's the most selfless, like, plays for team agency player ever. Like, in terms of just, like, that, and that's why it's really hard, the whole idea of, like, the GOAT. And I do agree with you, Zaboutine, and it's my biggest problem with people that say the faker fucking Korea Guma lineup is, like, the best lineup of all time. If I take the majority of the time that Kiin played, there is very few instances where he is ever actually the best player. There might not actually ever be an instance where he's the best player. However, he's always like top 4 or top 3. Or like for Thorin, you'll know it as well. It's like the device fucking analogy. So I really struggle with it myself because I get torn like one way or another. And sometimes I'll go back and like Kiin's better than I gave him credit for in the past. So it's one of those things that I don't hate it. It's just I've not even kind of decided on it myself. He is fucking very underspoken about though. That is true, particularly his early day stuff.
Put it this way, I'll tie two things you guys said together there. So one is that like second point that you were just making there, Keire, about the fact that like essentially what people do with the T1 lineup is ignore the two worlds for a second. What they're saying is because they were always top 3 and they did it for so many, so that's almost like being number 1. It's like, no, it isn't. Like actually, I know it's confusing, but being close to number 1 loads of the time I always say this. This is why for GOAT debates, I feel like the most misunderstood part is, are we judging the whole career or their peak? Because in my opinion, the peak has to be part of it. Because if you said to me, this player's the greatest player of all time, I think in good faith, I have to be able to go to a specific time and watch and see the best player I've ever seen. Otherwise, what, he was just the best sort of on aggregate, or that's why longevity makes it really confusing. I mean, the obvious example people will know is when we do this discussion, there will be some fans that'll go, what about impact? And it'll be like, no, because the longevity isn't like that. Like, he was just good. And secondly, he was almost never the star of even his own teams. And the second part is what I also want to tie to, because I think it affects Kiin, which is I have a real big problem with calling people the best at a role if you weren't the best player in your team and they didn't play through you. In my opinion, Uzi I's career shows this. You know, there's Uzi I teams, people will say that famous Worlds at Season 8. There's Uzi I teams where they probably shouldn't have played hard through bot. But you do because you've got Uzi I, mate. You're not doing it because you think, what's the correct way to play League? The correct way to play League when you have Uzi I is play through fucking ADC, because that's your best player. So my problem with Kiin is this, Keire. His main period, as this guy outlined, where he was the best top laner, was when he was on teams where the rest of the team weren't very good and he was the best, right? But that team wasn't winning. He wasn't the best top laner on a team that's already winning and then he's the best. He was the best on, like, with hard circumstances, let's say. So my problem is this. When he's had his actual championships, it's mainly been this Gen G lineup people are thinking of. And sorry, he's Chovy's sidekick. He just is. That's just reality. Like, if you win that, the majority of the credit goes to Chovy. He's doing an awesome job. Like you said, listen, as an if you want to talk about well-rounded, might be the best all-around top player ever, I'd give you that. He can play carry. He can play weak side. He can play with jungle attention. He can play without A. He can play with seemingly all types of play. The difference is, though, that's not the same as being the best top laner, is it? Like, the best top laner, put it this way, if we make it, here's another classic lens you can use. If we're making teams tomorrow and we can all draft every player in history, who are you taking for top lane? I don't think anyone's saying Kiin. If we start with top lane. Now, if you've already made your teammate and you took Ruler and you took Chovy, yeah, then you might take Kiin, of course. But if I tell you, if you take Kiin, though, I'm giving you BDD and Pays. Are you still taking Kiin for that one? Maybe you take Bin for that one. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is a real factor. I think the player has to, one, actually have been the best. And here's the last thing. Even though I do think you should be allowed in the conversation if you carry bad teams. I've made this case for people like Upset many, many times in their careers. The difference is, the moment that you're able to prove your true peak is when you get on the really good team. So if you actually got, by the way, I'll tell you right now, if Upset doesn't win any championships this year and he's the reason why, I'll judge him very harshly. Because all those years I was like, he hasn't got a good team. He has got a good enough team now. This team is good enough. Like, if he really is who I said he was, it's time to win, mate. Like, fuck all the excuses. Guess what? There's reckless lineups where he won that were lineups comparable to this, in my opinion. Like, that were like, people like Febiven, mate. He didn't always have caps and expect his entire career. He had other players too. So I do think this is why, if you notice, it's why, like, relative thinking is good in terms of when you're judging people in their splitting their team. But if we're talking about the best of all time, that's a pretty I would say that almost has to have the eye test. You have to be able to look at a game and go, that is the best player ever. It's why, actually, even though he wouldn't be most people's number one, it's why I'll never let people take the Shy out the convo. Mate, I could go and show you some splits where the Shy is unbelievable. He's like the best player in the world, in my opinion. Same as I think back in the day, Smeb was unreal. Again, look at the teammates he had, mate. The joke is, Smeb was the best player in the world with all the shit teammates. Like, with fucking Kuro and people, you're like, what? And people don't even remember. I'll say this for the millionth time. You guys all think Peanut was there the whole time. You can't even remember those season 5. Those season 5 junglers were fucking bombs, bro. And he was like in the world's finals with those and in the LCK finals. So that's the reason why those guys get like they're the GOAT. I agree with you. Even like Nagori at one point in time. By the way, that one is potential. Nagori was all like, but he could have been. By the way, the most slept on ones, the ones Zaboutine said, Khan. His problem is because he didn't win a fucking Worlds, we have to pretend he couldn't have been the best. You want to go and look at some splits? You can see splits where Khan is unbeatable, mate. He's imperious. He's just the god of top lane. It's real. So I think, here's the thing. As I said, you notice I picked two sorts of fan takes there. One was just ridiculous and we roasted him. I thought this was actually a pretty good take. I don't agree with it, but I think it's a pretty good take. It was well argued. It's well argued.
It's a really good one. I agree.
Shout out to everyone who submitted takes. Remember, if you want to see your take get roasted or praised, you'll have to find out which way it will go. Submit your take after subscribing to the Last Free Nation Discord. There is an LOL/Hot Takes channel, which is where they will all be. Remember, put your name if you want it read out. Do not say my name if you don't.